Recent events in Canberra and our current Australian of the Year have put the treatment of women at work, the handling of complaints of harassment, assault and rape, and the experiences of women across the country under the spotlight. Has that shifted the way that we think about sexual assault? In 2019, we asked tens of thousands of Australians whether they agreed with the statement that allegations of sexual assault are almost always true. Back then, 41% agreed. Now, a majority agree. This has grown 14 percentage points to 55%. About 2/3 of women agree and 40% of men agree, but nearly a third of men say they're neutral or don't know. That includes a strong majority of Labor and Greens voters and slightly more coalition voters agreeing than disagreeing too. But 1 in 4 of them are either neutral or unsure. We also asked for people's experiences of harassment and assault, gathering a picture of just how widespread these incidents are. We asked if respondents had ever been subjected to sexual harassment. It's clearly a gendered problem. 52% of women said yes. 7% of men said the same. Sexual assault has been experienced by 30% of women, and 27% of women say they've been subjected to domestic abuse.
Casey Briggs there, and to see where you fit in on the issues that matter, go to abc.net.au Australia Talks. So let's take a closer look now at the situation with workplace behaviour. Dr Belinda Smith from Sydney University specialises in anti-discrimination law and gender equality, and she joins us now from Sydney. Belinda Smith, welcome. So has there been a change in what's deemed acceptable and not in the workplace over the last 10 years?
Yes, I certainly think there has been. Possibly not in the first 5 years of that decade, but in the last 5 years, certainly since the Me Too movement, we've seen a shift in what's tolerated. I think the Me Too movement has brought forward more understanding of the prevalence and the harms of sexual harassment, and that was reinforced by the Australian Human Rights Commission inquiry into sexual harassment and its Respect at Work report that revealed, as the Australia Talks statistics show, the prevalence of sexual harassment in Australia. I think also, as you mentioned, the coming forward of Grace Tame and Brittany Higgins, people who have been brave and talking about sexual assault, enables women, and it's not only women, but enables primarily women to come forward and object to behaviours that before would have been considered, boys will be boys, not necessarily sexual assault, but certainly the range of harassment that we've seen in the workplace.
So has that change in what's deemed acceptable in the workplace been reflected in the laws?
Well, it's interesting because the laws themselves have not changed, but I think our understanding and use of those laws has changed. So we have sexual harassment laws that rely entirely upon individual complainants coming forward to complain. So I think until we have a greater understanding of what sexual harassment is and some support and enabling for victims to come forward, those laws are not going to be used. And so with that growth of understanding and preparedness to be able to come forward, we see those laws used more. And also we have work health and safety laws that say to employers, you must prevent harm in your workplace. But again, until we've seen this more recent understanding of the harm that sexual harassment causes, and of course sexual assault, but sexual harassment even generally, we haven't seen work health and safety laws understood as covering this sort of conduct. So we see both of these laws not changing technically, but being used more and seen to be applicable to this this sort of conduct.
And so have employers been accepting and acting on those responsibilities?
I think, you're going to have a range of employers. There are some employers that never will. But I think most employers do want to do the right thing. And I think what might enable them now is we have the Safe Work Australia national guidance materials telling employers how to prevent sexual harassment in their workplace. And that only came out in January. But that drew heavily upon the Australian Human Rights Commission report. And so it's very sophisticated and nuanced and constructive. And I think workplace employers take a pay attention to work health and safety laws. And so hopefully now those who are paying attention and want to do the right thing will be enabled to do more.
And so what's your advice to someone who might be watching who thinks they've been sexually harassed in the workplace and what they should do about it?
Well, it's quite tricky because you think, sexual harassment spans everything from, what seem to be fairly innocuous comments, but unwelcome sexual innuendo and comments and posters, right through to sexual assault. So what to do about it, it depends on what kind of sexual harassment it is and how comfortable somebody feels in coming forward. I am hoping that we see more support for victims in coming forward so that we can bring it out into the open, because until we do, we won't have it addressed.
Yeah. Okay, well, Belinda Smith, thanks so much for talking to us this morning from Sydney.
You're welcome.
And if this story has raised any issues for you, you can get help by calling the National Sexual Assault and Family Violence Counselling Helpline at 1800 RESPECT, which is 1800 737 732.